Hey there, fellow entrepreneurs. I'm Sue, and you've just stepped into Entrepreneurs Gone Wild. Every week, I'll introduce you to a friend of mine, a remarkable entrepreneur who's not just changing the world, but also harnessing a secret weapon, time outdoors. Together, we'll dive into their journey, unpack invaluable business advice, and discover why embracing the wild is not just good for the soul, but also a goldmine for inspiration and innovation. Ready to uncover the secret that's boosting bottom lines and fueling joy? Hit subscribe and join us in the wild.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to introduce Mary Guerdoux. She's a certified coach who's revolutionizing women's personal and professional development. With over 2 decades of experience, Mary helps women unlock their potential by understanding their energy and embracing authenticity. Her holistic approach combines technical expertise with emotional intelligence, incorporating wellness and mindfulness. Through coaching and workshops, Mary guides women to live purposefully, creating lives of balance and authentic success. And you might just find her outdoors. Mary, welcome to Entrepreneurs Gone Wild. I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah, I'm so glad I'm here too. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, let's dive in. I want to know more. All right, who do you help? I know it's women, but more specifically, and what problems do you help to solve for them?
Okay, so yes, all sorts of different women, and yes, the common thread is it's this feeling which I think a lot of us get at different moments in our life and for different reasons of just, like your light's just kind of gone a bit dim. Like everything on paper sort of looks like it's okay, but I don't know, that mojo, that get up and go, that sort of extra something just seems to be gone and everything feels a bit flat. And I mean, it certainly happened to me, which is sort of what inspired me to go down this route. And yeah, what I do then is I work with those people and then we really start exploring their energy. And I really feel the heart of all of that is energy. And I'll talk about what I feel that means. And just finding that energy again and just reigniting that fire in people, which I think, like I said, for all of us, there are moments in our lives when that kind of goes a bit dim. But sometimes, it takes more than just a little bit of a change of schedule or a holiday or something to change that. And those are the people that I work with. So often they're professional women, often they're mums, entrepreneurs, all sorts of backgrounds. But that common thread is that, yes, that kind of things just aren't lighting you up in the way that they used to.
Yeah, like that vague sense of, I don't know. Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. And I mean, if it lasts a day or two, I mean, that's okay. That kind of happens. But when it's kind of going on for weeks and then maybe months, you're like, okay, there's maybe something a bit bigger going on that I need to get into. And that's when people come to me.
Yeah. And is it mostly midlife women or, I mean, that's where it was for me. Yeah.
Yes, it absolutely is. Although, yes, again, midlife, sometimes it's kind of somewhere along the parenting journey. Sometimes it's later in life. I was actually talking to someone yesterday and they were saying, but this sounds like me in retirement, actually, because now I've retired and, so many things have changed and I'm feeling that. So, yes, I think it's sort of typically midlife. But yeah, like I said, all sorts of different things can kind of start that feeling of going.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's great. And then what happens? Like they're working with you. You're working on the energy. Like, what does that look like? As far as the coaching and outcomes that they're looking for.
Okay, so there's I go through a whole process. So I start with something. So I measure stuff. So I'm actually an engineer originally, so I do like a bit of measurement. And so I have something. It's called the ELI. So it's called the Energy Leadership Index, not created by me, but created by the coaching school that I trained with. And it's awesome. It's you answer all sorts of questions about how you're seeing life, about what's happening, and it pops out with a number, which they call your resonating energy level, which I just love already. And then, yes, it really looks at, where are you feeling good? Where are you not feeling so good? How are you seeing the different things that are going on in your life? And it's a really great way to start the process off by having this big picture of what's happening. And then, of course, the question is, okay, well, what should we do about it? And then in the process, what I call then energy, there are 4 types. So your emotional energy, your mental energy, your physical energy, and your spiritual energy. And we dig into all of those and then kind of see where are things working and where are things not working. And usually the big one is the spiritual energy. So that's all about purpose. What am I doing? Why am I here? What is it that lights me up? And when you start digging into that, that's when really things start to move. But all of the others are really important too, and understanding how they all relate to each other as well.
That's so cool. And I love that you have metrics attached, because it's like coaching can be so kind of like amorphous, and we're like, well, I feel better, or I did that, but I would imagine, like, so you could go, here's where your baseline was, you work on these things, and like, whoa, and then you dramatically have this like, like,
and you can actually and you can see the numbers change. And again, depending what people are, we all like different things, but there's something kind of reassuring, I think, about that. And it's a measurable improvement. I mean, it's fantastic to be able to see that, because mindset and how we're kind of seeing the world, that doesn't sound like something that you can measure, but it turns out you can. So
that's
I like
really,
it a lot.
Really cool. That's amazing. And then too, I love too that it's like, so I know when I was kind of going through all this, it was like, and surrounded by women, if I knew women that were my age, all of them had either gone through or were going through the same kind of thing. And a lot of them were like, well, I spent all these decades taking care of children or doing this, doing that, taking care of, I don't even know what I want in my life. So it was like, it wasn't like, oh, I want this, but I can't do it, I need help getting there. It was like, they didn't even know what they want anymore. And by digging into that energy, it's kind of like the sneaky back door into figuring out, like, well, this is draining you, this excites you.
I've never kind of thought about it that way, but it's really true. And there's someone I'm working with now, and that was exactly the case, because we started, and one of the first things I do with people is, in the sort of exercises that they go away to do, is go and spend an hour doing something you absolutely love. And she was just not able to do it. She was like, I don't even know what to do. So it's okay, we'll come back to it. And it's been a whole process. And like you say, by exploring this energy little by little, it's like, oh, okay, well, I used to like this. And then it's about, what you're describing is so typical. It's often the fact of being a parent. It becomes such a big part of everything, as well as a job, as well as everything else that's going on, that, the sort of what I love and what I love doing kind of gets lost along the way. Or when we kind of come back to the things that we used to do, that we really enjoyed, they're just not doing that in the way that they were before. And it's like, oh, who am I? And that can feel a bit scary, actually. I remember when I went through this process feeling a bit like, oh, am I really saying I don't know what I like anymore? I know what I like. And then, actually it was a bit different from what it used to be. And then getting comfortable with that and going, okay, so now just like sitting alone with a book in my garden is like a really amazing thing for me. Whereas it really wasn't before. And I was like, no, this actually, like, it's amazing how much peace this brings me. And I never used to need that, but 15 years ago, I had a very different looking life. So of course I needed different things.
Oh, for sure. And I think we're so aware of what we want when we're very young. We don't want this, don't want that. Oh, I do like this. But then, like you said, it changes. It's, now like, oh, a book and an hour in a garden and nobody, like, whoa, that sounds amazing, right? And at 20 years prior, it would have been like, that sounds boring and waste, it sounds like work or something.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so cool how that changes. And what happens, like, after they are able to, get the energies, like, identified, and then, like, what happens next for them? What typically are they experiencing once they've worked with you?
Well, to give you, so what's really interesting, someone I'm working with right now who's gone through a lot of changes already. What's great is that I've had feedback from her, but also people that she knows who just go, oh, what have you done with her?
Wow.
And they've really said the thing I really loved was, like, she's become so colorful. And I just thought that was so beautiful. It was just sort of, well, I love her and I've known her for years, but she just felt kind of gray. And now she's all the colors. She's vibrant. And on paper, again, like, it's not like her job has changed or that much of her routine has changed, but like something in that whole feeling and mindset has changed. And the way she is living and experiencing that job and those different things, those elements of her routine are really, really different. And the way she's handling her relationships with people too. And it's just reignited that fire, and she's smiling and happy. She said, I haven't been this joyful in years and years. So yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah.
Wow. My marketing brain is going immediately to, oh my gosh, you have such a great visual you could do, uh, gray and white, grayscale picture, and then into the,
Yeah.
I mean, to have somebody become colorful, that's like the most beautiful descriptor,
Yeah.
but it really, it just
I should
speaks
use
to, you should totally use that. Like, that's incredible. And then having that, like, if it's written or if it's, audio, video testimonial, that's, I mean, what a fantastic thing. Right. So how did you went, you said you're an engineer starting off. This is not the typical path.
No, not at all.
So how did you go from here to here?
So I studied engineering. I had, I would say, not a very typical career path, but I was focused on sort of my career and evolving. And I mean, one thing that's always been true is I've always needed quite a lot of change and quite a lot of variety. And so I moved around in my career. I did different things. And then I've actually been here in the south of France for quite a few years now. And I started working at a company, and I'd grown in that company. And then, yes, it was really after my daughter was born. I went back to work. I was very glad to go back to work. I took about 6 months off, and I was like, yeah, get back into work. And some quite exciting things were happening. And I was like, okay, so it's kind of normal at the beginning. I'm sort of tired, and it's not that easy, but that will pass. And then, there was kind of this growing feeling of, I don't know. So it's, I just never feel that colorful, that joyful, that anymore. And there was something at the back of my mind niggling away. I bought a book that I wanted to read, that I thought might help me with it, and nothing really happened. I didn't have time. I had a crazy schedule, and then COVID happened. And it just, along with all sorts of other very unpleasant things, on the pleasant side, it did create some time and space. I mean, my schedule just went completely different. And there was this opening that came up, and it was early in the morning, and I would find myself outside with a big cup of tea and a big blanket, watching the sun come up. And this became this kind of space for thinking. And I finally got into the book, finally started going, okay, maybe I need a sort of bigger change. I then actually started working with a coach. And what I realized with lots of discussions, what is it, when at work do I get this feeling of being lit up? When do I? And I realized more and more it was two things. It was training. So I'd been, for different reasons, I'd started delivering training. It was anything around transformation, change, getting people to do things differently. And as a manager, it was also helping to develop the people in my team. So there was kind of a common thread running through there. And then coaching became kind of obvious to me. And the other thing that was obvious to me was also, I need to help women like me. I think that's also true of a lot of people who go into coaching. You're kind of you want to help other people solve the sort of issues that you were facing kind of before. And I was like, someone could have explained all this to me earlier. So that's how I then, I decided to change. It took a little while before I then did. I then did a coaching course. And then, it was a big leap jumping out of my corporate job. I mean, we've got 4 kids at home, a mortgage, all those wonderful things where you just go, can I really do this? And so I did. But it's an exciting jump to have made. But yes, a lot of people at work were just like, oh my goodness, you're crazy. You're an engineer. What are you doing? But
I was going to say, the engineers, my husband has engineer brain as well. So I know, like, that must have been, that just rocked their world to have you go, wait, no, dude, that's not, that makes no
that's
sense.
Not what we do. Have you calculated what that's going to, and it's like, oh, really? I've calculated a few things, but I'm also going with my gut here.
Amazing. Which, that takes some bravery to do. That's great. Wow. So I know, I've seen, like I mentioned, I've seen you, when you're on Instagram, sometimes you're walking and talking, you had that amazing breakthrough reading this book under, tons of blankets and a big cup of tea out and watching the sunrise. Where do you do your best thinking, and how does that happen for you?
It's outside for sure. So I'm really, I'm lucky with where I live. I also chose where to live, so there's a reason why I'm here. So just over there is the most beautiful beach, and then there's a coastline that goes on and on and on. So I have the sea over there. I have mountains just over there, and they're all part of what I need. And again, in this whole process I went through with changing, that this being outside and knowing that that's all part as well of where I get my energy from. is one of the things that came up. And in a corporate type job where you go to an office, I mean, you can't just go, oh, I'm going to just go and sit on the beach and do my work for all. I mean, it just isn't compatible.
Just
so
not
yeah,
done.
yeah. So today, yes, the beach is the main place. The sea, I think, has just something amazing about it in terms of the sound, that feeling when you go in, even if it's just to go and put my feet in, not necessarily to swim. Because I'm trying to build on my swimming when the water's really cold, but I'm struggling a bit with that. But I'll wait till it's warm. But at least the feet go in. And there's something about that connection, that calm. And yet there's a particular cafe as well where I love to go, and I'll go there quite early in the morning I get a lovely cappuccino, and I'm right on the beach. And yeah, I go with a notebook, and yes, I have so many more ideas that way. And often I coach that way as well. So I have people I coach with online, and sometimes we do it just speaking. So I can sit there with my earphones in and we speak. And yeah, for me, just being in that environment, I am so much more able to be connected to the person I'm talking to feel that energy as well. Back to energy, there's something about hearing that with the waves and hearing them speak, and I don't know, it brings me more focus,
That's
it's
amazing. That's so cool. And I love too, because like, you know, sometimes I'll talk with people, and you know, there's the woo spectrum. So like the really woo woo, you know, it's like, to have somebody who's kind of science brain, you know, engineering brain, and know like this is actually a thing. It's not just crazy go hug a tree. Like there's stuff that happens that you know, that the ions, I don't know what all else it is. There's something about forward motion, you know, there's a lot of things that make it
there really are. And I guess for that woo skill, I love lots of woo as well, but since I also talk to, and I have that whole part of me as well that's an engineer, and I like to there's things I do it and I can feel that it works, and maybe I haven't got all of the answers about exactly how it works, but it's just so clear that it does, and you know, that's enough for me. It's like I don't need to understand it all, but more and more some of these things that have been called woo up until now, people are coming up with things that they can actually explain how and why it works. It's there's so much this, and that for me is what is one of my frustrations when people talk about, oh, what about data and science? The whole point about science is we can only learn more about things that we've already measured. So, and there's still vast quantities of things that we haven't explored yet. So of course there's plenty we don't understand, but you know, if it works, that's good enough for me, and we can research it, you know, sometime if we want to.
Sometimes,
I don't have to wait for the outcome of the research to be reassured that this is something that works.
Exactly. And these are natural things, so it's not like you're
of course
dangerous in your body, or you know, it's like, you know, it's certainly worth experimenting with. So what would you advise somebody who, you know, wants to spend more time outdoors, but you know, like a lot of the entrepreneurs, you know, we have this mentality of, maybe it's come from hustle culture, you know, like work your face off, you can sleep when you're dead, you know, outside. You know, I always felt, you know, for the first business I built, I spent the first 17 years indoors, because it was just like, I had a family to feed, I gotta run this thing, I don't have time. That's frivolous. You know, like what would you tell them, like how, you know? That does not work. It really doesn't work. And I mean, I have that, I mean, even with all this work I do, and the fact that, so all of those things I talked about, mental energy, physical energy, emotional energy, all of them need boosting, and they need time when you've been using those energies to recover. And like the most amazing thing for your brain is going outside, going for a walk, getting out, just even being able to visualize like a bigger space. That gives your brain not only a rest, but also opens up creativity. It means that it works. I mean, these are things that have been demonstrated. And also the thing we just have to accept is, you know, our bodies go through rhythms every day. There's moments in the day when we can be more in a sort of physical focus, other times when we can be in a mental focus. So trying to kind of work at sort of the same level all day long, it just does not work. And I mean, I get it. I have days like that where I go, oh my goodness, I've got so much to do. What I really want to do is go and run on the beach. Oh, I should really get in front of my computer. And I was like, don't do it, just go, because the energy that I'll then bring, and the focus and the clarity and the ideas when I then come back and sit here in front of my computer is 10 times more. But yes, it's a fight a bit with this way that we've learned to like approach work. And yeah, that's again, that's also another book that I read that kicked me off on this process that I loved. It's called The Power of Full Engagement. And
they talk about all of this and the fact that they started off looking at athletes and then, well, why is it when you train to be a high-level sports person, we get that you perform and then you recover, you perform and then you recover. But as soon as we get into a sort of corporate style or other business environment, we kind of expect a kind of constant performance. Like, why? We're still humans. So that is not the way humans work. Why do we do that? And there's all sorts of reasons for it. But realizing that, and then she's saying, okay, well, this is, think of yourself, if that helps, like an athlete, how would an athlete approach this? And it wouldn't be just sat there for 4 hours sort of working away. And it just doesn't work.
That's so great. Yeah, I love that analogy to athletes, because we wouldn't bat an eye at them taking a recovery day or stretching or
yeah. Yeah, and in this book it compares these energy types. It talks about these different things being muscles, which is quite a nice analogy too. So you have to kind of train the muscle, but then the muscle has to recover. Otherwise it doesn't grow, it just gets broken down. And I was like, yeah, and again, I've always done lots of sport, so I like that analogy too. It speaks to me. So yeah, it's the same for our brain. It's the same when we're wanting to come up with, content for Instagram. It's the same if you want to write an article. It's the same if you want to be kind of available and present with your clients. I mean, if you've been working like a lunatic nonstop, then you just haven't got that energy to give them. So
for sure. Oh man. All right, so let me ask you this. You have this fantastic way of, you've got the beach, you've got the mountains, you've got the practice doing this. So, and sometimes you go out and it's like you're creating, or thinking about your clients and, getting insights on that. When it comes to looking at your own business, what would you say the growing edge is? And so, tucking that into the percolator as you go outside, what kinds of things do you, look at for the future of your business and how you want it to grow and all that?
Well, I think like any business owner, I would love to have more clients and to have more people to work with for sure. But something new which has come up recently, which is a bit of a discovery for me and I want to build on, is speaking. So I had an opportunity. How do I begin this story? So I attended a conference in September called BU Brand in Las Vegas. And it was for women, for entrepreneurs. It's about building your brand and your business. And it's really for very purpose-driven entrepreneurs. So love that. And the lady who runs it set a challenge shortly before we were going that just said, I've got 2 spots for speakers. If you want to have a go, post a video on Instagram talking about why you'd like to speak and I'll pick 2 people. And I was like, oh wow, this would be a very exciting experience, but I've never really done anything like this before. I've got to give it a go. I mean, it's an opportunity. I'm going all the way there. I mean, think about all the other opportunities this might create. So I posted this video. I just come back from the beach, so covered in sand. I was all crusty. I hadn't had a wash yet. And I was like, no, but if you wait, maybe you'll just sort of not do it. So I posted this rather bedraggled,
that's great,
bedraggled looking photo. And I was like, well, this is me in the end, isn't it? So, and this is how I work. So, I mean, it's authentic. I did get picked to speak and I spoke at this event in front of about 60 women. And I talked about some very personal stories. I really shared some very difficult and vulnerable moments from my life. And then also talked about the coaching I do, the way I see life now, the wealth I think it brings to do all sorts of these things, be outdoors, share things, but also, share these experiences that we have and just, be a bit brave about, putting it out there and seeing what happens. And I really loved that experience. So I feel like the speaking is one I'd like to now do more of, but it's sort of new and I'm figuring out how that's going to work.
That's incredible. That's awesome. I mean, everybody's like, public speaking is scarier than dying and all this kind of thing. And you ran into it. And I love that you did it messy, rather than, let me go do my hair and do the thing and do the, like you got, when you have that urge to create content, that's the time to do it. And I think the world is craving so much more of that authenticity, rather than the perfectly coiffed and, all this. We don't relate with that anymore.
And that's also relatively new for me in the sense that, in my previous job as an engineer, part of the way I did things was, and the way I learned, this is what happens when you go to work. As I grew up, you put on a nice suit and you look tidy. And I remember even thinking sometimes, but if I haven't got my hair under control, people will think, none of her life could possibly be under control. And I had that. I had that thought. I was like, which is obviously ridiculous, but I sort of
it, though. We all
and I believed it and I projected it and I was in that thing. So yeah, I mean, it's still it's new, but it's also really fun exploring this kind of, okay, so here's the bedraggled version, here is the, but yes, it's part of who we are, so why pretend it's not? And if you really want to connect with people, then yeah, you have to share your true self if you want a real connection to happen. So, yeah.
And I suspect too, when you got that speaking opportunity, you said you shared vulnerable stories, you were very much yourself. I would imagine that the people in the seats were leaning on the edge because they're
yeah, I mean, you could really, yes, you could hear a pin drop, and there was a moment where I was like, oh my goodness, and then I was like, okay, well then this I've got people's attention. I mean, this was the idea, and what was amazing was afterwards the number of people that then came up to me saying, thank you so much for telling your story, because, and then they told me theirs, and I was like, oh wow, okay. So I love that this is actually much bigger than me just having a process of sharing, and maybe it's good for me to sort of tell some of these stories for myself. Actually, no, there's all these other people that are really benefiting from hearing this, and then wanting to share some of their experiences, and people saying, this is something I've never told anybody. I was like, oh wow, well then I'm just so touched and privileged that you feel that they're things that you can tell me. So yeah, it's amazingly powerful.
Yeah, there's like such magic in saying the part that everybody says silently, and saying it out loud instead. I think, and that's where people are like, yes, oh, Mary can help me then. That's an amazing thing. It's we have to be that first one to be brave, and
that's it.
And be confident enough in our calling, our purpose, in order to like, okay, yeah, this is scary to be visibly me, like put myself out there, but I'm excited for you. This is going to be incredible watching like what comes next, because when you're open to, okay, I'm willing to go speak more, that's a fantastic level of value creation that you're going to be putting out into the world. Man.
Yeah.
All right, so where can people find out more about working with you?
Okay, so probably the best place is my website. So my website is called www.resonance.coach. So resonance is this wonderful connection to energy. I like that. So that's why my business is called Resonance. I mean, I'm also on Instagram, and you can find all those links on my website. That's probably the easiest place to go first. And then on my website, there's things about all the different work I do. And there's also a link to something I'd love to share with people to give them like a flavor of what I do. And it's called a Core Energy Profiler. It's on the bottom of the homepage. And you can go there, answer a few questions, and it gives you then a short report about these different energy sources and how they're working for you right now, to give you a bit of a flavor of, okay, so what's happening at the moment, and a bit of intrigue about, yes, if you work with me, those are the sorts of things we might start exploring together.
That is really, really cool. So Resonance, say it again, Resonance
Coach.
Resonance.coach. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that they've come out with new extensions that are like, this is the
yes.
business.
Oh my goodness. Otherwise, yes, it's just there aren't enough. And I was like, okay, so and also it's explaining that it's coaching I offer. So the fact that .coach exists is awesome. So that's
a beautiful thing. I love it. Well, thank you so much. This is, folks, this would be an incredible thing to just go see where your energy is. You think you probably don't know.
There might be a few little surprises. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's always things we can learn. Even what we know sometimes isn't quite what we think we know.
Right.
I think it's straight just to keep learning and exploring and seeing what else there is to discover.
That's great. Any parting advice that you would like to pass on?
Well, yes, I have a couple. I think what is true probably, or helpful for anybody and everybody, is try to get a little bit more sleep. There's just nothing that would help all of those 4 energy sources than a bit more sleep, if that's possible. I realize that's not always easy. And as well as, or instead of, just get outside for a little bit more every day, even if it's 5 minutes. It's amazing. It's amazing what that can do in terms of all of your energy and your perspective. So, yeah.
I love it. All right, guys, you're hearing it from an engineer, so
it's real. Yeah, it's backed up by
not
data.
A hype.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you. Just kill the recording.